But BuzzFeed News was who first published the Steele dossier.
Oh, okay.
That was
Really?
that was already
BuzzFeed?
questionable. Yeah, BuzzFeed News was
I
who
don't
first
remember that.
published it.
That's crazy.
The first time that the full dossier was released, because it was bouncing around several outlets for a while, and nobody wanted to publish it because it wasn't there was still a lot of speculation on whether or not it was
legitimate.
verified.
Yeah.
Well, BuzzFeed was
is BuzzFeed even around anymore? Is BuzzFeed a thing still?
I believe BuzzFeed is, but BuzzFeed News is gone.
Okay.
And I don't even think BuzzFeed exists to the extent that existed in the 2010s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're not even relevant anymore.
Yeah.
But so anyways, that is who just to give you an idea of who heads up Semaphore. Okay. Now, why does this matter? Because Semaphore just published the other day an article about a study done by a group called Welcome. And the study, it was, I think, I forget the name of it was something about Democrats to win or something along those lines. But ultimately, what the study found was, I'm trying to find it here. I have it here in my Democratic Party. Okay, so deciding to win. And so this was organized toward a common sense renewal of the Democrat Party. And it was recently published, and it found that the Democrat Party brand essentially is tanked. And that 70% of Americans view it as they can't be trusted.
Okay.
And they're not considered positive. So initially this is being shared because the idea is that you hear that 70% of Americans don't like the Democrat Party, don't trust the Democrat Party. You think this is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think,
because initially it's going to be yeah, you're right. You caught on to what we have been saying for a long time.
Thank you for joining us and realizing what we've been saying forever. And it sounds like good news initially, but then I started to think about, once you dig into the study, my question was, what is this 70%? What do they think? Because just because it's 70% of Americans think that the Democrat Party is out of touch, was the specific term, does not necessarily mean that all of these people are going to go and vote Republican.
Right.
Because there's plenty of uber progressives that hate the Democrat Party right now.
Right. Yeah.
Especially the Democratic Socialists of America.
I was going to say they're taking over New York. So
correct. So I'm thinking to myself, because I'm seeing this being promoted as a story of this is a good thing. This is awesome. Republicans have a chance here. But I see what's happening in New York, and I see what's happening with this senator in Maine. I recently just saw an ad of a woman that is running, which I had no idea. Georgia is a neighboring state. I had no idea that there was a woman in Congress, I don't know what district that she's in, that has partnered with CARE and has been supported by the Democratic Socialists of America. And actually, I think I have a clip kind of explaining her, which will go a whole lot easier here. Okay, let me play it right here.
As Georgia has become. I'm also the granddaughter of Palestinian refugees. My family lost everything and had to rebuild from nothing.
So this is Roa Roman. She was born in Jordan and has now entered the 2026 race for governor of Georgia. If you live in Georgia, here's what you need to know before you eventually cast a vote. Roman was communications director for CARE Georgia. Let me tell you a little bit about CARE. In 2008, the Holy Land Foundation was convicted of sending money to Hamas. During the trial, evidence came out showing CARE's founders had ties to the same Hamas network. After that, the FBI cut them off. You're like, what does that mean? Well, because after 9/11, FBI treated CARE as a partner, bringing them into outreach programs with Muslim communities. CARE denies the allegations. Now, in 2022, when Roman initially ran for state representative, she was endorsed by Working Families Party. WFP works closely with Democratic Socialists of America, DSA. Both are culturally and economically Marxist. WFP is a registered political party. Candidates run on that line. DSA, it's not an actual party. That's kind of like the get out the vote machine. So case in point, Zohar Mandami, possibly New York City's future mayor, is endorsed by DSA and WFP. Rashida Tlaib, also endorsed by both. So, Georgia voters, this is a little bit about the movement behind Roman.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, and I just thought, wow, okay, this is not just a Mamdani problem. And everybody who is saying it's going to stay in New York, it'll crash and burn, and it'll be a lesson to all the other states in the country, I think that they're missing that it's nothing ever just stays in one state. It's not going to just stay in New York. And it's going to be a very convenient line, a narrative spun if he does ruin the city, not win, and is unable to implement, or they're poorly implemented, all these policies. They're just going to use the excuse that it's the rich, and the rich are holding them down and not letting them. What I'm saying is the traction is there and it's going to continue. And I don't think it's going to be as simple as let them fail and everybody will learn their lesson. I just don't think the problem's going away. It's growing.
Well, it's that, and it's also my concern. Like, I went and I dug through this study a little bit more, and because I was like, okay, so the study's saying you guys need to stop with the they, them, and the,
Trans
identity
stuff.
politics
Yeah.
and all of this kind of stuff. This is not going to abolish the police, all of those all that super progressive messaging. This study says cut it out. Let's not talk about it. However, if you dig into the study about the messaging around economics, the tune is different. And that is my concern. Now, while this study will also acknowledge that specifically making, like, I find this really funny. So let me read this to you. This is a summary. It says, in the executive summary, the report warns voters' frustrations with the status quo are not the same as a desire for socialism. Okay, yes, correct. It says this is a key caveat in the fifth recommendation, which calls for critiquing lobbyist corporations and ultra wealthy, while clarifying that anti-corporate rhetoric should complement popular reforms, not substitute them to veer into socialism. And then it goes, it positions this as a populist approach inspired by pre-2020, but stops short of endorsing socialist overhauls.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm reading this and they're acknowledging just saying full out socialism is not a good idea.
Right.
But if we can package this where it's palatable, where, and we line up with Bernie Sanders, who was just on stage with Mamdani and AOC the other day, who has called himself a Democratic Socialist, and AOC also. Like, let's just say maybe, okay, Bernie Sanders is what? Conservative compared to Mamdani?
Yeah.
That's not to say that that's not problematic. And that's not to say that those other, like, when you're talking about state representatives, when you're talking about governors in certain cities, senators, other group, that they're not going to try. The DSA currently is being funded. They're all about against the billionaires and oligarchy, but they're being funded by super progressive billionaires like the Soros Foundation. Right. And they have decided to double down. They're like, okay, well, let's change our messaging. So it can't be about LGBTQ and not demolishing, the police, anti-police messaging.
Yeah, get rid of the patriarchy, toxic.
Yeah, but if we package this just right as an economic message.
Well, and that's smart because the economy really does impact everybody, especially the youth vote that they need. And LGBTQ issues don't impact everybody. The trans issue doesn't impact everybody. Like, economy is the way to go. And so they can arrive at their radical means by becoming a solution to a pain point that a lot of Americans, I've said it 1,000 times, we need Republicans to really focus on the cost of living issue because that is impacting across the country. And they're smart. They definitely are understanding how to identify something that a lot of Americans are going through, which is economic woes. They're like, stuff still costs a lot. I still have debt. I can't afford the American dream, yada, yada, yada. So they're going to arrive at their radical destination. They're just going to do it in a really, really clever way.